Well, happy Monday, guys. It is the 15th of March, and we are going to have our first success story. We had today in the studio Shelley Keeney, and she's coming from St. Pete. She's one of my best friends. I met her, oh my gosh, years ago. It was my first year in prison. Um, it was like we finished each other's sentences. It was amazing. Anyway, she has a real success story to share with you. We're going to talk about some of the things that she had to overcome on her way. So I'm very happy to introduce her. I'm going to bring her into the studio now. Hi, Shelley.
Hi,
How you doing today? I'm so excited to have you on. So everybody, this is Shelley. You want to start and tell us just a little bit about yourself, Shelley?
Um, yeah, I am Shelley. I got out of prison. Let's see, it's been almost exactly 5 years now. So I've had a little bit of time out. I did 6 years there. Moved all across Florida to different compounds. So I was in a lot of different places over the course of that time.
Oh yeah.
I'm 40 years old right now. I went in when I was 20, let's see, 29? Yes, I was 29, maybe 28 when I went in. So I was fairly young, but I think I went in at the perfect time. Like it was exactly what I needed when I needed it. So.
Hey, I understand that completely. I always say that the only reason I'm alive is because my mom prayed me into prison.
Right, exactly.
I swear.
So
So,
mostly just like leading up to me going to prison was a lot of addiction. There was a lot of addiction early in my life. I actually started using even in my teenage years.
wow.
A lot of things going on personally for me, and drugs just kind of provided me a way to feel like I belonged to a certain group. I wanted to be part of the cool kids, and to me, the cool kids were the ones who were uh, on drugs and living the fast life and doing the really fun, exciting things in my mind at that time. And I wanted to be a part of that. I just wanted to belong. I wanted to feel like, I was wanted and needed somewhere. So early on, I started, selling drugs, and I just wanted to be the center of it all.
Yeah.
Um, so that kind of, snowballed
So,
into what became a life of addiction for me.
so, about how long would you say? I mean, how long was your addiction? Because I started late. I didn't start drinking. I never drank a beer or smoked a cigarette or anything until I was 23.
Wow.
So, yeah, yeah, I know.
I just started smoking pot when I was like 13, 14 years old. And I wouldn't say it really got to addiction level where I would say like I was addicted until I was
Right.
21. But by the time I was 21, I was definitely a full blown addict using every day, had to use, using wasn't a choice anymore. It wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
Um, I remember that.
Maintaining.
Right, exactly. I remember that first morning when I woke up and realized at this particular time I was using opiates.
Mm.
I remember the first morning I woke up and realized that I was dope sick, that I did not feel well, and it was because I didn't have my drug of choice. And I remember just laying in the bed crying and like wondering how did this happen. And I remember the fear, like what do I do now? You know what I mean? What happens now?
What's next? Yeah.
Like, and what was next was a string of unfortunate events, one after another for the next, 7, 8 years.
Been there. I did it too. And like I said, I started using late as opposed to everybody that I've met or knew. And that was because of being the preacher's daughter and stuff and getting married really young. Um, but yeah, everybody was living the fast life. And my addiction, oh my gosh, it started and it just progressively got worse for years also. Yeah, that's
Right.
what yeah. Okay, so addiction had a big thing, and that's a big common factor for a lot of us. In fact, that's one of the things they talk about in the news right now is how many people are locked up just because they're addicts? How many crimes were committed just because of your addiction?
Right.
That's a big.
proportion of people are there
Huge.
because of drugs. Whether it's
So was this your
trying to get drugs or whatever, you know.
yeah. Now, was this your first time in prison?
It wasn't. It was actually my second time. I had gone when I was maybe 26. I had gone to prison on some methamphetamine charges. I did a year and a day.
Yeah.
I felt like a visitor. I went in, I got to see what prison life was like. And I left. And believe it or not, like that was my mentality. I felt like a visitor. I felt like it wasn't real. I guess I didn't really internalize the experience, and I
Yeah.
obviously didn't get what I needed from the experience.
Yeah.
I was really just popping in. But that second stay for me, it wasn't a pop in. It was a stay. Like I lived there. This was my life. This was the result of my choices, and it became very clear for me that I didn't want to make those choices anymore.
Heck, I understand it too. And this is one of the reasons I think that when Shelley and I met, when you and I met, it was just like almost instantaneous. And you were not the nicest person, and neither was I. Definitely not approachable. Girl, please. But I again, I relate to that because this was not my first time. This was my second time, and my first time I only did like 3.5 months, and basically they just wanted me to get a number. I was a turnaround, and I did the same thing, and I didn't even compartmentalize it. I just acted as if it never really happened. It was an event that I was still going to use. In fact, I OD'd 45 minutes after I got released from prison the first time because I went right back out and used my choice of drug and thought I could still use the same amount. And I literally OD'd. Thank God. But I understand. So I didn't, I thought it was like nothing. But my stay this time, it was like you said, this was going to be my home
Right.
until I left. And God only knew when that was going to be because anything, as you know, is a possibility every single day on that yard.
Right.
Whoever you are, you never know. So, okay, let's go ahead. So let's go forward. What did you think the first day that you got there on this stay, on this last one? What was your thought process on holy
Oh, shoot. I think so scattered. So all leading up to the thing, it had actually occurred to me that I would be in a life sentence. And that really stuck for quite a while. And even I remember the first time talking to my lawyer and asking him, so what's going on? How's it looking? And I remember, I was at the county jail on the little phone there, and he said, well, I like to be honest with my clients. And I'll tell you, it looks like you're going to be doing life in prison. So you need to prepare yourself for life in prison. And I was like, that's it? Or are there any other options? And, he told me that there wasn't, that's what it was looking like. And that's probably what I needed to be prepared for. So I think by the time I got to prison with a 6-year sentence, it was 6 years Department of Corrections followed by 10 years probation.
Yeah.
I think in some way I was grateful, at least to know that I was getting out and that I had an out date.
Oh my God, yes.
So I
Yes.
was grateful, but I was also seriously distraught. My relationship with my parents at that time was very strained. So I really wasn't sure how much support I would really have over the course of the 6 years. And I just remember feeling lonely, extremely lonely and scared.
Yeah. That was lonely is such a great word. And I still had some support, but that's one of the things that we face also is burning those bridges. I mean, especially addicts. How many times have we just torn down, not giving a crap about it, not even really realizing that that's what we're doing because our addiction was so bad. But that loneliness, overwhelming, dark, sucked in hole. I felt it too. It was, but again, like you, 98 years compared to my 10-year sentence. Yeah. much better, because that's what they were like, okay, it's either you take your 4-year deal, which I couldn't and wouldn't, or you're going to get this. And I was just like, I don't know what else is going to happen here. But yeah, I understand the gratitude too of going in and knowing you have an EOS day, because how many people did you meet that don't?
Right.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, so let's take it from there and just tell me what was your next, what happened while you were there? Did you, your mindset, did you?
Well, I think, I did a lot of distract myself, and, I tried to and those sorts of things, but all in all, I was hungry. I think I spent like at least my first year and a half in confinement, almost in its entirety, for fighting, for cursing out the officer, and it wasn't even all accidental. Like, a lot of it was very purposeful. I knew I was angry. I needed time. I needed to be alone and in a room full of 86 women. Like, you don't get that. You just don't get that.
Never.
You needed to feel and process, um, and not just process like the moment, process what was happening in that moment, but just process everything in my entire life that had led up to that moment.
Yeah, you start thinking about that.
Yeah, there was a lot of things I had never dealt with. And so I think in confinement, I was able to find a little bit of peace and a little bit of quiet. And I was able to really process in a way that I never in my entire life had processed before
Right.
what I had been through. And that leading all the way back to, sexual abuse and trauma in my childhood.
Yeah.
Um, and I kept coming out of confinement, and I kept getting in fights and kept basically just telling officers off. I mean, left and right. Like, you can't tell me anything. And if I didn't like what you were saying, I was terrible. I really was. I was awful.
That's it. That's just so everybody knows. That's who I met when I first got back. Okay. That was the girl I was talking about. But you know what? That's a big deal, because um I won't say any names, because I can't right now, but I am, corresponding with a lot of people, and some of the people that had TV news, they were high profile, have asked, what did you think? And being an incarcerated woman who's been released and who had that anger, I was not only mad at everyone, the judge, the prosecutor, my husband, my everything. I was so mad at myself, and but still wasn't taking responsibility for myself. So that anger is a big thing. And looking at some of their media clips and things, I can see that. And recently I told one, I said, honey, you were just, what I saw, all those little smirks and things you were doing. Oh, I did it too. But I was scared, and I was angry, and I was alone, and it wasn't nobody gonna, I wasn't letting them know that they hurt me anyway. So that anger is that's a hard deal to process right there. And sometimes it takes a minute. So
There's a lot for me. And in most cases, I was angry at myself. Like, I knew I had come from a family. I had great opportunities in life, and I had made my own choices, and I had, made my own bed, so to speak, and I knew it. Um,
oh yeah.
so I was just super angry at myself, but really under that, I was just hurting. And I couldn't. That's what I needed to process, was that hurt. And I couldn't do that out on the compound in front of these women that I had,
Never.
strong in front of or whatever. So that's really what confinement time was about. And I remember the day when I finally broke. I remember sobbing like a grieving sob, and it was it was like I was letting go of a major loss, and that loss was everything that should have been, everything that could have been. That loss was that child that was hurt at 12 years old, and I sobbed, and I remember letting it go that day. Like, I was able to move on that one day. It was like the light hit me, and I knew from there. I knew that it was going to get better.
Yeah.
I remember coming out of confinement that time, and the warden at the compound I was at approaching me and being, real snotty and telling me to sweep the pavement. I was going to sweep the pavement for the next 8 hours.
Sweep the sunshine off of it. Love it.
And I said, all right, yeah, I'll be happy to do that.
Absolutely.
And she was like, what's
Who are you?
What's going on? You're Keeney. And I told her I was done with assignment. I told her I was done.
Yeah.
And I meant it. And for the most part, I was okay. I wasn't completely done. I had some things go on later,
One or two, just one or two.
They were minor incidents, and it wasn't, because I was just hurting and angry. It was just because that's, what the moment.
That's the way it was. Right. Had to take care of business.
But I just remember that day, just letting go of that hurt and letting go of that anger and coming out and knowing that I was done and I was going to do better. And I knew it.
Yeah.
And after that, I really did. I began to heal. I began to look for the future. I began to hope for the future.
So, a lot of people, I tell them too, like, people are interested. They see, I know they do it to you too. You were in prison. What do you mean you were in prison? So they have questions and things, and that's one of the major things I tell them. That is an impossible place to grieve. The emotions, men and women, because men have them too. I can't imagine how hard it has to be on them. I mean, women are taken from their children. They have so much things that they're thinking about on the outside. If you have a death in the family, it is not a place to process and grieve. And for you to be able to do that is a blessing, because you have to let that go at some point. It took me, my anger lasted about the same amount as yours, but I was on the compound.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't get in trouble, but people knew I was not the nicest person. I just avoided, so I didn't get to process that until, God, almost 2 years going in. It took me a long time. So that's
done that on my own. Like I didn't know how to experience those emotions. They were emotions I hadn't ever felt. I hadn't ever really dug that deep to truly feel anything, I think, for so many years, because I had used drugs to cover it
to
up.
not feel.
Right. And I didn't know how to feel. It was like I had to go in a deep, dark hole and really dig deep.
Yeah, isn't it weird? Like I used to tell because I saw a therapist in there for a while, and she showed me this paper and it had like all these emotions. I'm talking a full page, okay, like front and back. And I looked at her and I said, I have like 3 of these: anger, rage, and there was something else, or happy. As happy as I knew happy to be. And I was like, clearly I'm broken. Because if one person feels all of these emotions, I don't know, what are you talking about? And I started working on that and emotions are hard to process, because sometimes you're feeling them for the first time and you're sober and you're like, what the fuck am I going, what am I going through right now? What is happening? Because you've never experienced true happiness or true anxiety, just in a good way, in a natural way.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah. Move closer. Do you mind moving closer? Because we're kind of having a little bit of problems here. There you go. We just want to hear you a little bit. Okay. So leading up to it, we know it was a lot of drugs. There was anger once you got there, and those are all natural. What did you do there to
I started to try to be my best self. And that was really everything that I did. I just started to really apply myself. I had come to terms with the fact that I was there. This is where I was going to be for a while. That wasn't changing. So, I worked in the kitchen as a baker for a long time.
Yes. The best biscuits.
And when I did that, I took what I was doing really seriously. I began to take myself seriously.
Yeah.
And I showed up every day to the kitchen, and I showed up and put my best foot forward.
I know that's right.
Job like it paid. It
I
did.
know that's right.
But I put everything that I had into it. I woke up every morning. I wanted to do the best job that I could do. I wanted to bring something to the table. If biscuits was, what I was bringing to the table that day, I
A
wanted to
coffee cake.
or coffee cake or whatever I was doing. I put personal standards for myself
Absolutely.
that I brought into the bakery station. I held them up to standards also, and I decided, what, we're going to be our best right here today, whether we're in prison or not. We're going to be our best every day, no matter where we're at.
And that's how it should be.
Right.
And that's what makes you a better person.
When I was not working, I was working out. I was, teaching fitness classes. I was fitness instructor at
Teaching me.
a couple different compounds that I was at, and I would run between the kitchen and baking, and then to the gym and teach class, and then take a shower and go back to the kitchen and bake, and just started staying really busy and doing positive, engaging in positive activities.
Absolutely.
Year that I was there, I was at Gadsden, and I felt really fortunate to be there because they had so many programs there that I could join. Anger management programs.
That place isn't that is that's the independently privately owned, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I never made it to Gaston. You kept telling me to come, but they do. From what I hear, they offer so much, and I think every compound needs to do that. That you need to keep your mind busy in there.
And for the last year, what I remember, I would have a betterment class, is what they were calling. I'd have a betterment class almost every single night.
That's awesome.
And I was really just trying to prepare and trying to dig deep for my future, because I knew a lot rested on me being okay by the time I stepped out the door. I was also fortunate enough to be put into the modality program. I was in a year-long program on the Annex compound.
Yep.
And for those of you that don't, modality is like a drug rehabilitation program. And that was life-changing for me. My counselor there, Miss Stewart, shout out to Miss Stewart. I love
Shout out.
She's amazing.
I know who she is.
She was absolutely amazing, and she really helped me to make a lot of those changes that I needed to make to be who I am today.
That's right.
And like, it wasn't a happy place, but it was a place where, for me, I was able to seek out the things that I knew that I needed. I was able to get that counseling, and I made the most of it. I knew that I needed that, and I applied myself. I was able to find positive activities and positive friends to interact with, to stay busy, and to feel good about myself. I was able to set personal goals every day, no matter how small or silly those goals might have been. I set them, whether it was for my workout that morning or for what I was going to accomplish at my job that day, or whatever it might be.
And I know that from personal fact. And you were if you said you were going to do it, and this is one of the things I love, if you said you were going to do it, by God, you were doing it. And I could always count on you for that. And you taught me a very valuable lesson. I had never been a no person. No had always been a very hard word for me to say because I used to be a people pleaser and a bottler of emotion. And you taught me something, and I don't even know if you know this, but it is still seared into my brain. It's one of my favorite things besides my peace or pain. Your choices every day, no matter how small, brings you peace or pain. Was boundaries. Favorite word. Love that word. Don't cross it. I'll clearly tell you what they are. But I was able to start telling people, no. You taught me that. And you were, as a friend, you'd be like, nope, can't do it, Shy. I've got this to do, but we'll round back around, and that was, people need to do that. And people need people to look up to. And I looked up to you so much. Okay, so let's go on. So what was next? You were planning for your future. You knew you were going to have a future, and that's awesome. EOS is approaching. What's going through your mind? EOS.
Again, work release program. I went to Suncoast work release. I had an incredible experience there. I I don't know anything about the other work release programs. That's the only one I ever went to.
Yeah.
By God, it was life changing for me. To be able to go out and get a job, to have work, to feel like I was part of the community again, to
Yes.
feel great, um, prior to actually walking out that door officially, it meant everything to me to have contacts at jobs, uh, to have at least, to say I had worked at X, Y, and Z job before I walked out the door, to have money in my pocket and not have to get out the door and say, Mom, Dad, after everything they had done for me, after all of the pain I had caused them, first of all, after, their continued support through the 6 years that I was there, to have to walk out the door and rely on them for every single little thing I might have needed. I need underwear, I need bras, I need clothes, you walk out the door needing everything. So to be able to have
Everything.
money in my pocket and be able to provide that for myself and feel good about the fact that I was being independent from day one,
Absolutely.
that is so different than
It's
walking out.
empowering.
It was empowering. You're absolutely right.
Phew, I know. I got goosebumps.
So I just want to put that out there, like how important those work release programs are.
I absolutely agree. See, I did Orlando. Orlando was good. I mean, there were no programs really. We might have had, it was work. We had church come in a couple times a week. Some of the girls did that, and there was a church you could go to on the weekends. Suncoast sounded amazing. They do a lot of stuff. But I just want to say a shout out to these people, and they're no longer there. But the Bradenton Bridges, I went there. And when I tell you it was a cognitive therapy, hundreds of hours, changed my whole life. Like you, I believe wholeheartedly, anybody with an addiction, I first of all believe if you're in there for any amount of time, and you're wanting to change your life, they should absolutely offer you some kind of program. I happen to love Smart Recovery because it's all cognitive thinking on how you change your words and become more positive, and unlike the STEP programs. But I believe every person before they're released, especially people with stunts, should have the opportunity to go to work release
Oh, I
because it gives you that independence. I believe it gives you that empowering. You can do it, and it's slow steps. Just the thrust out into the environment after all of that time, the culture shock, just the shock of the colors, and there's so much. Just going into the grocery store freaked me out, man. And I'm a social butterfly, but yeah. So, okay, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I totally agree with you. I think that work release was, I don't know how I would have felt mentally if I had not had that.
I don't, and to be honest, I don't manage my own personal story, but I don't know if my story would have been the same if I wouldn't have done work release. I don't know if I would be sitting here today being your success story. I can't promise that
I
because
know.
I can only imagine how that would have felt and where my self esteem would have been. And to put me, into a dependent situation again where I can't for myself and I need, and just how that would have affected my
Your
psyche.
psyche.
I don't know that I would have been who I am today.
Right.
Who I am today was based upon me walking out of that work release center 6 years to the day after I was sentenced because I didn't get any game time. So I did exactly 6 years to the day when I was released. And the day I was released, nobody was there. It was just me. And it wasn't because my mother and father didn't want to be there. My father he was in the hospital at the time.
Yep.
And I love my father. He is just my absolute hero in the whole entire world. It's my dad.
Shout outs to Pops.
But he was in the hospital at the time, and my mother was there at the hospital with him, and he really wasn't doing all that well. So I ended up walking out of prison by myself, and there was nobody there the day that I walked out. And I think even that was like a really powerful moment for me to walk out into the world and know that it was me. There was nobody there to catch me. There was nobody there
Yeah.
to hug me and to bring me in and to say, oh, we got this. We'll put this together. I'm so happy to see you. No, it was just me in the world. It was me facing the world by myself and recognizing that, I have me and that's it. And it was time for me to make decisions on my own that day of
Clean,
direction.
clean-minded,
Right.
empowering woman, adult choices
That's right.
yeah.
Like a super adult moment for me to walk out all by myself and get into the taxi and ride to the little room that I had found for rent. And I was renting a room, I think for like may have been $100 a week or something, or $150 a week. I found a little room to rent in somebody's apartment and just riding there by myself and putting my things away by myself. I remember the emotions, but more than anything, it was super empowering. And of course, I would never wish my father to be ill and not be able to be there for that moment. I think for me to walk out by myself was an incredible experience and very eye opening. That it really is me walking this walk alone, and I can go whatever direction I want.
Yep, it's your choice. Yeah.
Right.
Now, can I talk for just I want you to tell because I know that this is a situation, it has to be resolved on some level, and it's gotta get better. How was your search for a place to live upon your EOS? How long did that take you? What was that like? I just want the audience to understand how
Well,
severe this is.
when I was getting ready to get work release, they let us use the phone and they let us search on the internet and those sorts of things to try to secure a place to live. But I started to realize a pattern. And that pattern was that nobody wants an ex felon to live at their apartment complex.
Nobody.
They don't.
Nobody.
So I called place after place after place. He told me they do criminal background checks, which is pretty standard anymore. And it was a definite that I wasn't going to pass that background check. So, place after place, I'm just marking them off. Nope, not that.
No,
Nope,
no.
not that place. Nope, they don't want me.
I got to the point where I remember people, I was talking to some people and they said they'd get to the point, it's the first thing they'd say, I'm a convicted felon. I mean,
Right.
just to get it out, are you going to let me live here?
And you know what finally happened is I was getting closer and closer to my EOS date and I couldn't find somewhere to live. My parents had told me that I could go home. But again, now I had a little bit of money in my pocket. I had 2 jobs that I was working while I was at work release, and I really just wanted to stay. I just wanted to give this a shot.
You've already started to build a life.
I had started to build a life, and I saw hope. And returning back to my old people, places, and things, maybe didn't seem like the best idea. So I was trying to find a place and it just wasn't working out. And as I came closer to my EOS date and still didn't have a place, which I had to secure for probation, and so on and so forth, like I had to have an address. When I was at work, and I was at my workstation, I was doing like a telemarketing job at the time, and I was crying. I mean, just like totally crying all over my keyboard.
And just so the audience knows, that doesn't happen.
Oh, but
it does not happen.
It was so frustrating and so scary. And I just felt like nobody wanted me, and I didn't know what to do because I wanted to start over so badly.
And you're working so hard. You have a job, you have money.
Right.
Nobody will take it.
Nobody wanted to give me a chance. And so one of the girls at work walked by and she's like, "Why are you crying? What's going on?" And I told her, like frantic, I can't find a place to live and nobody wants me there. And I'm going to be getting out of prison. And okay. So she told me, she said, "Well, I take this class with this guy and he was just saying he has a room for rent. Maybe he'll rent to you." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm a felon and nobody wants felons." So she said, "Just try, just give him a call." So I gave him a call. And of course, just like you said, "Hey, I heard that you have a room for rent, and I just want to put it out there. I'm a convicted felon. I've been in prison for 6 years. I'm getting ready to get out in 2 weeks. Nobody will be
busting my butt working 2 jobs.
Please, will you give me a room to rent?" And he said, "Sure."
Have you ever noticed or watched people who are EOSing before you, everything starts going haywire the couple weeks before. Every person. I think that it is literally a universal test for us. How are you going to react to this? Seriously, it happens to everybody.
Yeah, I definitely remember that, and I definitely recall it in myself.
So how amazed were you? Just like, thank you, just thank you. You
I mean, I was absolutely floored. I was excited beyond belief, but I was also still scared to death. I
of
remember
course.
those last few weeks, I would go on my break and at work at my first job, and I would go out to the parking lot, like way as far away as I could get from anybody because I would just cry every day at lunch. I was like, okay, thank God my crying period has come. And so then I could go cry for 30 minutes on lunch break, because I was just terrified. I was terrified. And as much as as hopeful as I was, and as much as I believed in myself, I was also scared to
The
death.
first time we're stepping out into an adult clean role in our own lives. It's like the main character has finally walked on the stage.
Right.
It's and
Terrifying.
it's terrifying.
I really, I didn't know what to do or how to react or what it was going to be like. I knew I had probation over my head and there was a lot of pressure for that.
How hard is that? How
I
I mean,
really,
that's like a thing all on its own because that's our law, our Bible.
right. I remember, as much as I knew that I wasn't going to mess up, I
Right.
remember believing that's really what mattered in probation. I think I had always, heard, and in my past, even personal experiences, felt like the probation officers weren't on my side. So I felt like they were going to be this opposing force in my life who was
Absolutely.
trying to take me down.
Offer it because that's what we've been subjected to.
Right. But I was really grateful when I started probation. I had an incredible officer. Shout out to Mr. Tucker too. uh,
Right.
he's incredible. I'm actually off probation now, and I could probably
Whoop, whoop.
just to talk to him just because he was an incredible role model, and he believed in me,
That
and he
is so
pushed
cool.
me, for better and for more. And he talked to me, and he was real, and he was actually somebody that I really learned that I could count on, and still know that I can count on today.
That
And I
is amazing.
relationship with my probation officer. Um, so I think that for me was really, really scary, but I ended up with a really positive experience from probation. I know that that's not everybody's experience.
I agree with you. I had when I was on when the probation that I had when I went to Key West, off rip, I already knew I was getting the worst probation officer you could get assigned. Then to top it off, she got a raise, so she was like higher up. I was her only person. So of course I'm like, this is insane. Okay. But you know what? I went into it with they're doing their job and I'm doing my job and we're equal. I didn't come out with that mentality of, okay, this is a PO, but I did know that my last one before her was not on my side. So I completely understand what you're saying.
Right.
And that's a big, big struggle there too, because, probation has all of these rules that you have to do and you have to comply with and still live your life and work your jobs and go to school. And we're going to get to that too. Okay. So now you've got your place, your
Yeah.
probation set.
So I was working at the time at the telemarketing place during the day and Boston Market at night. I could not stand the telemarketing place. That it's just not me. So
Ditto.
one of the managers at Boston Market actually had a brother who owned a lawn service. And I had been telling her that I really needed to do away with this telemarketing job during the day, and I needed a different job. So she threw it out there like, "Hey, my brother owns a lawn service. I know he can never find good people. Are you willing?" I'm like, I am so willing. I'm
You love that manual stuff too. You
yeah,
love it.
I love hard work and manual labor.
Yeah.
So that had me written all over it. And I started working there. I started working there 7 days a week. I got out of prison ready to work and ready to rebuild. And it's not easy. And
No,
it takes work. And that's what it took.
you have to work. You actually have to put in the work.
It, and it's not easy. But you got to be willing, and I was. I worked 7 days a week at the lawn service. I had my night job after the lawn service. I would, go to my night job and report. I eventually left Boston Market to go to a pizza shop that I'm actually still at.
Do shout outs for them.
That's 4th Street Pizza. Shout out
Do it 4th Street Pizza, because let me tell you, they hire lots of girls from there. They and just thank you to all the people out there who hire work release girls. Do it. You can get a refund back, right? They get a tax credit for hiring us. And let me tell you something, anybody who's watching this, work release girls are going to be your best bet ever, because they have rules to comply with. They're not trying to mess up for the most part. They just want to get their money and work. So anybody out there, check it out. Work release girls are awesome.
That's right. So I was working a week at the lawn service. I was working 5, 6 nights a week at the pizza shop. And I just really dedicated myself to grinding and to really getting a solid financial footing for myself. I knew that it was going to take. I wanted to feel secure in a way that I've never felt before in my life. I wanted to build a foundation that nobody could take from me.
I got it.
And so I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked. And going back to the housing, kind of the next trial that I faced was that room that I was renting from the gentleman that had finally allowed me to rent a room in his apartment. The people at the apartment found out that I was living there and wanted me to be put on the lease. Of course, I couldn't be put on the lease because I'm a felon and they wouldn't have allowed me if they knew who it was that was living there.
Yep.
So I had to find a new place to live. So I was back on the search again and couldn't find anywhere to live. No apartments would take me. I mean, I tried even, trailer parks.
Got it.
Even the trailer parks wouldn't take me. Like literally, I could not find a place to live.
The struggle is real. It's real.
So I remember driving to work. I was on my way to the lawn service and I saw a sign that said house for rent. And I was like, I'll try anything. Like, I just need a place because I'm getting ready to be homeless. And again, I can't be homeless. Homelessness isn't an option on probation.
At all.
So I went by the house and the owner of the house happened to be standing outside. They were doing some last, minute renovations. And he basically just wanted to know if I had the money, which he did.
Yes, I do. I do have the money.
You have the money. And I told him, he's like, well, it was expensive. It was a 4-bedroom house. I didn't need a 4-bedroom house. I really just needed like a small.
I just need one room, a sofa.
But I couldn't find that. So at this point, I'm willing to take anything. 4-bedroom house sounds great. I would love it. When can I move in?
With my one change of sheets and my
all I had.
4-bedroom.
So I moved in, and when I moved in, I kind of made the stipulation to him. I was like, I can totally afford this place by myself because I work very hard, and I make money. But I don't want to afford a 4-bedroom house by myself. Like, I don't need 4 bedrooms. It's just me.
Yeah. And I'm not getting dogs and cats, so
I wanted to rent the rooms out. Like, I wanted to get eventual roommates, but I wanted to stay the only person on the lease and wanted to be solely responsible for the place. Again, because having security and safety of knowing this is mine and nobody can take it from me.
That's right.
So important to me.
Absolutely.
And
being responsible for it.
Right. I was responsible 100% for it. And I knew that I could count on me. So that was what I wanted. And he agreed to allow me to, have roommates or whatever if I wanted. They didn't have to be on the lease. And that little did I know when I set that up that day, what I was setting up for my future. Because that was the beginning of the future and who I am now in the business, Live Better Rentals.
Did you have any clue because the audience is going to hear going forward, but did you have any clue that this was the direction that you were going to be taking?
Absolutely not. Like
Oh, okay.
property manager and like rental landlord. No, like no. I'm just a girl who's scared to death that she's getting ready to be homeless, and I need to
Oh,
live, right? But there's something about making the most of opportunities.
yeah,
I think, when you hit a brick wall and you can't find a place to live, and the only place you can find is a four-bedroom house, looking for all the opportunities that a situation presents, and being responsible for digging those out of every situation. Because in every situation, no matter how bad it looks, I could have said, "Oh, I'm in this four-bedroom house. It's expensive, and I'm not," but finding the opportunities that lay in that situation that you're in. Um,
yeah, and
everything.
being able to comprehend where it can go and opening your mind to see bigger pictures now,
Right.
you know?
So I ended up posting an ad on Craigslist that I needed a roommate. And I ended up renting a room in my house. I set it all up. I furnished it. I got a little bed and everything. And I rented the room, I think, for like $180 or something, $160, maybe even at the time. Um, and I realized as he was paying me the rent, right? Because now he's paying me like in a month about $600, which is like half of the rent,
Right.
which was cool. So, wheels are turning. And I set up another bedroom and I put out another ad. And before I know it, I had all of the other three bedrooms rented. And now I'm living there and, I'm managing this property and I'm paying the rent. And I have three renters there in this house that I've furnished. And things just started happening for me. I realized, they were paying all the rent, they were paying all the bills, and I was making a profit. And it became kind of a little business for me, a little side hustle, maybe. It wasn't really a business yet, but it was definitely a side hustle. And it was
Absolutely. And it's enabling you to work your other job still, which is stacking that bread, your two jobs, that's right. And now you've got your rent it's covered.
right. I have the three renters. I only have one night off a week. So my one night off a week, I'm like crazy all over the place trying to do everything. But I really was setting up for my future. And
Yeah.
for about a year and a half, that was all I focused on. There was no relationships. There was no, for me, like going out and having a good time. Like I honestly, like, I think it's very valuable and very important to enjoy your life and take time to do those things. But for me, like, I just knew that I had a goal and I had a
Yeah.
mission. And that mission wasn't going to be accomplished by going out and enjoying being free and sitting on the beach every day and kicking back. That mission was
Yeah.
going to be accomplished through hard work and dedication.
Yeah.
And that's where I was at.
And you had to, you are starting from scratch by yourself. You didn't have the family or, that opportunity to go home and lay on the beach for, heck no, you had to get on your grind, baby.
Absolutely. And my parents had offered that to me.
Of course.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad that I chose differently, because
Yeah.
I just became fully independent. And so, in any event, as things ended up progressing, I actually ended up talking to my landlord and asking him if I could get a second house. I told him I wanted another house. And, he was a little skeptical about it. And I reminded him of who I was. I am the person who has taken care of his property. I made all kinds of upgrades to his property personally.
Yes, you did. Ooh, them backyards you did. Ooh.
In that first house, I tore out all of the sod all by myself. I put in St. Augustine grass. I turned it was
It
a
was
of a yard that I ended up turning into my sanctuary out there.
mm,
And I enjoyed it. And it was incredible. So he did finally agree to give me a second house. I moved out of that first house. I kept that just as a rental property, ended up renting all four rooms there. And now I'm really more like in business mode
so now
about
you've got two homes.
now I had two homes, two four-bedroom houses, and I began to set up the second property as well for rentals, and started getting renters in there. Around the same time, I also started to think more about my future because now I'm more financially grounded and stable. I was able to really consider what am I going to do in my future? Because, I'm not getting any younger. Lawn service isn't going to be what I want to do forever, or at least not what I'm going to be able to do forever.
Right.
So I decided I wanted to go back to college. I had already completed my AA prior to ever going to prison. I wanted to be a school teacher at one time. And that never materialized because of my addiction, but I did have my AA already completed. I knew I was a good student. Everybody in my family has, been to college and are college graduates and have that career thing going for them. And I had always seen myself that way. Like as a
Yeah.
child, I never even imagined in my wildest dreams that I would have been sitting at 30. How old was I when I got out? 36 years old and not being a college graduate.
Who? Me either. I always knew I was going to be married. I was going to have children. I was definitely going to go to college still.
Right. Like, I mean, I don't know about married and children for me.
Yeah, well, that happened real young. Okay.
Children and that sort of thing. I was raised as a little girl, I look back, like, I think my mom was real feminist. Like, I was empowered to go to school, to work, to be independent. You don't need a man. That.
Oh, total opposite.
And so that's who I was. I didn't dream of marriage and children. I dreamed of career and success, independence. And so sitting at 36 years old and recognizing that I really hadn't reached that vision that I always had for myself, the person who I knew I would always be. And I knew it was going to take going back to college for me to begin to reach that vision and, complete that picture of me.
Right. So what did you sign up for there, ma'am?
I enrolled, or I tried to enroll, at USF.
Yes.
I applied to go to USF. I wanted to work on a bachelor's in psychology. My goal was to eventually work with people with addictions and hopefully be able to help somebody.
She'd be amazing at that.
I put in my application and I waited and I waited and I waited. And I finally got a letter in which they told me my application for admittance to USF had been denied due to it's called the Conduct Review Board.
Yes. Yes.
And basically, when a student comes into a university and they have prior criminal charges, which I had to disclose in full to the university on my application, your application goes to a conduct review team and they look over all of those charges and stuff, and then they decide whether or not they're going to admit you into the school.
Right.
On my conduct review, the conduct team denied my application, and that was it. I was not going to be admitted to be a student. But and here's like one of the messages that I would want to get people to understand is when you know that that's what you want, you don't quit just because somebody says no.
That's right.
No, I might have cried for a day. I think I took a day to cry and feel sorry for myself, and then I was like, okay, they said no to me, and I'm not accepting no.
Absolutely not.
College, and I know that there's a spot there for me. I know that I belong. I know that I'm ready, and damn it, I know that I'm good enough. And you're not going to tell me that I'm not.
So what'd you do?
The small ink, underneath at the bottom, you have the right to appeal this decision, blah, 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 do this, that. And I said, you bet you're behind. And I appealed their decision. So I had to gather a bunch more paperwork, a bunch more documentation, and really stand up for myself and just show up for myself and ask the people in the support system that I had around me at the time to show up for me as well. And thank
yes.
you, some of my friends, my parents, my probation officer, my bosses, and all of those positive contacts that I had started to accumulate over, the course of the 2 years of me being out, they showed up for me and wrote letters. I submitted it all into USF along with my appeal, and I got another letter. And the letter was not that I was accepted, but the letter was that it was from the Dean of Students, Miss McDonald. God, love her.
I remember you telling me this on the phone. I was at work really.
She wanted an interview with me. And so I just figured this was probably the normal process of
to brush off or
you appeal this sort of decision. And later came to find out that that was not the normal process. In fact, the normal process and the only process that there had ever been prior to this interview that she had offered me was that when the conduct review team denies you,
It's
that decision had never in the history of University of South Florida been overturned. Meaning, when the conduct board reviews you,
you're done.
your trip is done. It's over, or at least at USF. But she said that she read my paperwork and she read my appeal and the supporting documents, and she said there was just something about it that told her maybe, not that she was going to let me in, just maybe this appeal and this particular woman needed to be looked into a little further. And so she called me in for an interview that day, and I didn't know it was the only interview she had ever done of this sort. And it was her just giving me a chance, just giving me a second to hear me out.
That's all we need. You just need a chance. Take a chance on me.
And considered me. And I went in for that interview, and we talked. We probably spent a good hour and a half talking about everything under the sun. And I was totally honest with her. She asked me some really tough questions, and I gave her.
You don't have anything to lose at that point.
Some really hard answers. I told her who I was, and I told her who I was. And I didn't hide anything. I was very transparent. And one thing about me is that I'm not ashamed of who I was. I can't say I'm proud of who I was, but I am so proud of who I am today that I'm not ashamed of my past. And I'm not ashamed to say, yes, I did those things.
Because it made you who you are today. This beautiful woman who I admire and respect.
It was my journey, So I put that on the table for her, and she heard me, and she saw me, and she gave me a chance. The next day I received a letter from her that said I had been admitted into the University of South Florida. I was the first student to ever be accepted after the conduct review team had denied them. My appeal was granted, and I was
don't quit, guys.
Into the psychology department. So I worked on my bachelor's degree after that. I worked diligently. I was a straight A student. I continued to also work. I continued to also run my rental business, which really wasn't a business yet. It was still kind of more of a side hustle. But things began to really progress for me at that time. I finally was able to graduate from USF with my bachelor's. It was the most incredible experience.
So proud of you.
Age and know that, I had arrived. I did this. I remember when I was in prison, when I was in the drug rehabilitation program that I was in, I remember my counselor proposing to us, what our plans for the future was and what we wanted to do with our lives. And we each went around the group and we each shared what we wanted to do. And I remember that I shared that I was going to finish college when I got out. I had shared that. And one of the other girls interjected me and said, "Now, Shelley, that's really not realistic. Nobody's going to let us into college. And, you're not going to be able to do that. I think we need to be more realistic."
I think you need to choose your goals and go for that. That's what I think. Better goals.
And very sternly, told her, "You will not ever say something like that to me again. If you want to limit yourself, you're more than welcome to do so, but you will never limit me or tell me what I am or am not going to be capable of doing in my future, or what is going to happen for me." And I remember standing on that so strong. And on the day that I graduated, I remember thinking about that moment and thinking,
"Told you so."
Never limit me. Because for me, the sky is the limit, and it's just how hard I want to work for it and how much, how willing I am to be persistent.
How much you put into it is how much you're going to get back.
That's absolutely right.
It's so easy and so simple and so hard for us. It is. It's the most simple and simplistic things and we still have that addict brain because that's who we are. So hard to understand it. It's just so simple. Work hard. Yes, you will reap.
That's it. Put in the hard work, and it's not going to be a smooth road.
No.
The road is going to be bumpy. It's going to go up. It's going to go down.
Yes.
Sometimes it's going to wind around and you're going to
Girl, I've been up in the Deliverance Hills. I swear I have.
right
Right.
that path, even when you're thinking like, where is this path leading? But just making sure you stay on that right path no matter what. Um, and just not giving up, not just throwing your hands up.
So now you've got your bachelor's. You've got 3 rental properties, correct? 3?
At this point, I have received my bachelor's degree. After my bachelor's, I actually decided that, you know what, I want my master's degree.
I can't stand it.
So I applied for the master's program, a master's of rehabilitation and mental health counseling.
Yes.
In that program right now, currently working on that degree. Also at USF.
Jeez.
I will be a licensed mental health counselor at the end of it. I'll have a certificate as an addiction.
Free counseling, guys. Free counseling. No.
That's right. And for me, I just think the sky is the limit. That side hustle that I kind of had of the business properties, I now have 3 properties. I have 10 renters. It is an official business, Live Better Rentals, LLC. That's me under Shelley Keeney. And I just started that at the beginning of this year. So it's just, continuing to put in the footwork and to work diligently and persistently. I have days now where I allow myself to enjoy myself, where I allow myself to have those beach days.
Yeah, and you deserve them because you worked so hard, and now I'm so proud of you.
Right.
And the beach days are extra special for you too, right? I mean, because you're always hanging out with the girls and stuff.
I am hanging out with the girls a lot. I hang out with a really special man a lot now too.
Well, yes, I have seen his picture here and there. How's that going?
All over my Facebook page because he's amazing.
So
and
happy.
that I want, a lot of the women out there to hear is that there is an amazing man out there for you. And don't
Just wait. Don't. That's right. Tell him again. Say it for the people in the back.
I'm sorry, what?
Say it for the people in the back. Don't what?
Do not settle for less because there is an amazing man out there for you.
Yes. And you don't have to settle for that first one when you're in work release or girls.
Gonna take not settling. And I was actually getting ready to walk into a marriage with another gentleman before I met the man that I'm with now, Michael, who I am so excited to be with. But I was actually ready to walk into a marriage with another gentleman, and I was not but about 6 weeks away from wedding day when I really had to take inventory and take stock. And as hard as it was, because I had a gigantic wedding planned, and all the family involved, and I mean everything.
Yeah, I was coming to that.
I had to take a moment and really assess, is this what I want out of life?
Right.
And is there more for me out there? And the answer was yes. And I knew it wasn't an easy decision. And I cared very much for the man that I was with at the time. I loved him dearly, but I had to make a decision to love myself more.
Yeah.
And I called off the wedding, and as hurtful as that was to him and even to me in the moment, the door that opened for me to find the man of my dreams.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what it did. It opened the door for me to not settle and to find that one.
Yep.
I
I
man now, I'm living my best life. We're both working towards achieving our dreams together. And life is amazing. And like I said, I don't take every day to just sit back and enjoy myself. In fact, I'm lucky if I take 2 days a month to sit back and enjoy myself, because still today it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of dedication. I wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning.
She's psycho, guys. Nobody normal. She's still in prison time. Swear to God.
I start my day that way. I put energy into it, and I go full force all day long. I do homework all day long. I deal with renters all throughout the day, and really just sticking to it. Every day, waking up ready for whatever challenges life brings my way, and not being stuck in the problems, because there's plenty of problems. Things come up every day.
But that's what life is.
looking at the positive things, being grateful for what I
Yeah.
have. When everything seems so hard, like just taking a minute and being grateful for what I
I do
have
it every day.
came from. Um,
How
and
far you've come. I never thought, so many people sit there while they're in prison, and I did it. I know you did. That I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I'm not going to be able to because of. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
yes,
But there's a lot of I will and I can. It's just changing your mind frame on how you think about things and changing those words from I have to do this. It's not that you have to. You get to do that. You're alive today to take a breath to get to do these things.
every day, it is an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to be better than we were yesterday. It's an opportunity to do things differently than we did yesterday, because
Yep.
yesterday, we weren't perfect, and today we won't be perfect either.
Yep.
But every day is a new opportunity.
That's right. You got to show up. You got to show up and put the work in. And, when you do that, things start to change. When you start giving a gratitude list, things start changing. When you start being thankful for the things that you have your needs met. Sometimes we don't get our wants. Sometimes our wants aren't good for us. But when you have your needs met, you have food, you have shelter, you have the love in your life, you're going to school, you're doing the thing. Great things happen when you change that mindset.
Yes.
You from just inside, everybody's different inside. Look, I just want to share this real. So I'm in work release with Shelley's out. She's been out. She's doing her thing and everything. I'm about to go home and I need a vehicle. While I decide that I'm going to buy a Harley. Okay, I'm buying this Harley. My best friend's selling the Harley. Oh, get the Harley for that and to transport it down to the Keys and everything was going to be about a 3,000 cold cash. Shelley hadn't seen me in years. We were talking on the phone in work release. I sent Shelley $3,000 in cash by Zelle. And do you know what she did? Shelley sent me a text and said, "Thank you for trusting me. I can't believe that you would send me $3,000 like that. But you know what? I know you and I know your heart and I know what you're doing and I know that you are committed to living your best life. Those are the people that I chose and I learned that from you too. I mean, I learned it when I was young, but I didn't listen. Choose who you are around very closely. You choose your friends. Don't let your friends choose you. And you are a role model. And I knew where you were. And I knew my $3,000 was right there. It was safe. She got the bike down to Key West. This is what I'm trying to say, folks. Just look at somebody's heart. Look at them, and you'll see. You'll see. Just from a felon talking to a felon. I love Shelley. Shelley, I'm so thankful for you. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for coming on today to Pure Prison and sharing your story.
Thank you for asking me. I am so proud of you in my life, everything you're doing right now in prison. Like I'm blown away by the things that you're doing in your life, and for all of us felons out there, ex-felons, I just want to thank you on behalf of all of us.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, we are going to wrap it up. Shelley, I love you. I would just want to remind every single person out there, you have two choices, peace or pain. Every single choice you make during your day is going to bring you peace or pain. So, as my friends say, choose wisely. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Everybody tune in. Please check out www.pure-prison.com. Sign in and subscribe. You'll be kept up to date with the most current things that are going on. The other thing is, if you would please go on YouTube, this is where this video will be seen. Check out our Facebook and YouTube. It's under Pure-Prison. You guys, I hope you have a blessed week. Choose wisely. Shelley, I love you and we'll talk soon.
I love you.
Bye, guys.